Okay, now, hey, Jamal, I want to pronounce your last name right because I don't want to get into a fight, you know what I mean, where I know I'll lose, you know what I mean? So please tell me your last name.
Charlo.
Jamal Charlo is on the... Okay, now, hey, Jamal, I want to pronounce your last name right because I don't want to get into a fight, you know what I mean, where I know I'll lose, you know what I mean? So please tell me your last name.
Charlo.
Jamal Charlo is on the...
Earth to Keith Thurman Jr. Come in, Keith Thurman Jr. Earth to Guillermo Rigondeaux. Come in, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Maybe I should call him Rigondeaux. Maybe he'll answer then, huh? What do you think? Manny Pacquiao signing with Premier Boxing can be perceived to some as a dumb move. I mean, he should beat Adrien Broner if and when they fight in January. Should beat Broner. But Manny is what? Age 40, 41, something like that. Or he'll be age 40 by the time he and Broner clash in January. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the move Manny made. Mainly because Manny is fighting to pay off some debt. And when you're Manny Pacquiao's age, and if you return to boxing as he did, and for the reasons he did, you do it for one thing and one thing only. The rematch with Floyd Jr. Okay? All of this in between stuff, I mean, this is when guys get themselves in trouble. You come back for the big rematch. That's your reason for coming back. But Floyd Jr. said he'd fight Manny if he beats Broner. You believe him? This is the same Floyd who told ESPN he'd never seen Manny Pacquiao fight. Then they showed an interview of him from years earlier saying Manny was one of his favorite fighters to watch. The same Floyd who promised Margarito he'd fight him in the future when it made smart business sense, and then didn't make it happen when it was time to go. The same Floyd who said he was going to fight Manny in December, and a bunch of channels ran with it. They ran with that lie also. So sure, Manny, Floyd will fight you right after you beat Broner. Believe it when you see it, buddy. You haven't made the wisest choices in your career, and I think someone saw you coming from miles away. But Floyd's gonna fight you next. Just beat Broner. You'll see. But if it goes the other way, somebody's gonna step in there and think they can beat Manny, and they're gonna catch the wrong Pacquiao on the wrong night, and he's gonna send a message. But we'll see. Let's see how it plays out. It also may wind up being dumb for Adrien Broner. You better get more than $4 million for this fight, AB. I can tell you that much. Remember, you and Danny Garcia were offered that number, and both turned it down. But for Broner, it's worse. This is obviously Premier Boxing giving you another chance you don't deserve, and also maybe electing the cash out route or the cash out option on your deal with them. Because it's worse for Broner, I should say, because if you remember, he turned down the Rock Nation offer of $40 million over 5 years. You know, you remember that? So that was late 2014, early 2015. Okay. So 14. So he'd be 3 years into the deal right now. So let's say Adrien fought twice a year for 5 years. So right now he would have made $24 million of that $40 million guarantee. So how much money do you think Adrien has made since 2015? Do you think he's made more than $24 million or a whole lot less than $24 million? Going back to Manny, Manny didn't need a tune-up for Mayweather. And he said he didn't. He was ready to go in December. And even if he did need a tune-up, he had one. A guy named Matisse. So, come January, Broner loses, and that Rock Nation deal looks sweeter and sweeter. And I get it. Heyman and Jay-Z don't like each other. So Jay went after Al's guys to partially get under Al's skin. And he offered inflated numbers to entice even the most loyal guy. And Heyman told him to say no to the deal. So, I mean, and them two not getting along or liking each other. I mean, it didn't start with Jay-Z. Alan Heyman made his money in the past through the music business. And years ago, he allegedly convinced Beyonce's father to swindle some money from her. All right, this is long before Jay-Z was in the picture. So Beyonce ordered an audit to kind of see if he stole money from her. And so Live Nation was audited. That was the music company, or should I say Live Nation / Heyman Ventures LLC. So eventually Beyonce, her business relationship with her father was terminated in 2011. So years later, when her husband, Jay-Z, starts to deal with what? The sport of boxing, the name Alan Heyman pops up. And she already viewed him as a guy tied to her father's bad business practices with her. So listen, business is business. And when you hear Bob Arum refer to Alan Heyman as a cancer, he is, to an extent. All right? Because he's not getting the best deals for his guys at the expense of personal vendettas and dreams of a boxing monopoly. And while fans, media, what have you, while people should just love boxing and not take sides of the different promoters, the bottom line is it's too difficult not to. For me, I don't like the premier model. It's taking a sport that's already broken and driving it to be further broken. People don't see this, but I'm going to slowly say this. Listen to the wordplay, because I've been misquoted before. People laugh and chuckle and say whoever said boxing is dead needs to have their head examined. I'm not saying boxing is dead. I don't know who said that. Here's what I said. Boxing, as we know it, is dying a slow death, more so in America. Boxing, as we know it, is dying a slow death, more so in America. After these networks kind of lose their guts or lose their whatever, and with the way boxing has kicked television to the curb, boxing will die a slow death. Right now it looks great, but now you have to strategize in order not to lose a fan base that has to be enticed to purchase streaming apparatuses to prosper. You understand? You have followers, and then you have casual people. Now you have to lure followers as well as casual people into a new way of thinking. That involves the purchase of some streaming apparatus. Let's put it that way. All right, let's move on. So it looks like Errol Spence Jr. has Floyd Mayweather Jr. as his interpreter now. Or should I say PR guy. Floyd says, no, hold on. They are not going to make the Crawford fight. They're just not going to do it. And hey, if you want to listen to that guy, I mean, he likes to hear himself talk. That's fine. What's interesting is when he mentioned it, there was not a peep from the Spence Jr. camp. Not a peep. Makes you scratch your head. But see, here's the good thing about ESPN Plus and DAZN. These apps and what they are building are going to force the issue in boxing. Case in point, if Errol Spence Jr. doesn't fight Terrence Crawford next, it forces the PBC's hand. Either Spence Jr. fights Crawford, or he's going to have to fight Thurman, or Garcia, or Porter, or Garcia. Meaning Danny or Mikey. And the in-house fights beginning in 2019 will have to get better because of this. You understand? I mean, we must see Charlo versus Hurd, or Hurd versus Williams. And then the welters are going to have to fight each other in fights that aren't 65-35 one way. I mean, which means those top 4 or 5 guys who are premier guys are going to have to fight. And the thing is, if MIKEY Garcia doesn't fight Lomachenko or Linares, then he has to follow through with the Spence fight. If not, people are going to have to call them out. And if he does, and rumor has it that something's cooking there, I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out, then it's shameful, because now you got your guy at 47 fighting a guy at 35. And ironically, Floyd Jr. speaking up on behalf, because he's kind of like the last guy that did it. When he came back, he fought a guy who weighed in at 134 in his last fight, which was Juan Manuel Marquez. Spence isn't exactly a small welterweight. I mean, the guy probably comes down from 180. And so, shame on you, Errol Spence Jr. And shame on you, MIKEY Garcia, because Garcia, you got a shot at glory with the Lomachenko fight. And okay, you want to test yourself, fine. But Spence Jr., come on, dude. MIKEY Garcia. And his thing is, hey, I mean, he called me out. I mean, it was an easy fight to make. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, nothing you say is, nothing you say can justify it. Garcia doesn't even, I mean, he doesn't have a belt at 47. And, I mean, as far as Spence Jr. is concerned, how can Porter not want to fight you? And Garcia, meaning Danny, not want to fight you? And Thurman not want to fight you? And you call them on it, but then you go after a guy who's a 135 pounder instead of the best at 147. For what? I hope you guys are doing the math on this. And while I certainly hold Heyman's PBC with the lion's share of blame for the problem in boxing, I think a large problem is with the networks. Once HBO and Showtime started becoming boxing promoters instead of networks showing the best fights, the problems began. And it used to be that HBO had the big names, but Showtime had the better fights. Remember, they had, what is it, real fights, no rights? I mean, like, they claimed no rights to any of the fighters. They just put the best fights on. And then the Heyman platform, you know what I mean? The Heyman model, the premier model came in. Now they became just as much promoters, more promoter than HBO had ever been in their 45 or 50 years or however long. They were in the game. See, the only way Heyman can buy himself time with this monopoly is that he has to make the big fights within 2019 and 2020. If not, it's time to move on. Be what you are, either an advisor or a manager. Take your pick. And let your guys sign with whomever. Okay? And let's stop with this network being the promoter type thing. Ray Leonard, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearns, Iran Barkley, Larry Holmes, all this networks preventing fight stuff didn't exist back then. And it's all contributing to the problem. Those guys got the fights done. They didn't care about who fought on what. It just, they all wanted to test themselves. And this is why I like guys like Willie Monroe Jr. Here's a guy who fought Golovkin on HBO. Billy Joke Saunders in the UK on BT Sport. And now he's facing Jermall Charlo on Fox. That's the definition of a free agent. That's how boxing should be. And listen, I get it. He's the so-called B-side in each of those fights. But who the heck cares what network it's on? I say all this to, once again, use Errol Spence Jr.'s words against him. He said, A, he doesn't need a promoter. B, he is his own promoter. And C, he's a free agent. As I stated, if you are a free agent, you owe yourself the best deal. So in other words, if ESPN came to Errol Spence Jr. right now and offered him $10 million for the Crawford fight, shouldn't he take it? Or let's say this. What if Pacquiao went to DAZN and they offered Errol Spence Jr. a 2-fight deal to fight for $30 million? Okay? And they said, we'll give you Jesse Vargas and Manny. So we'll give you $5 million to fight Jesse Vargas and $25 million for Manny. You think a free agent wouldn't take that? But you call yourself a free agent and you say you are loyal only to Showtime. It makes no sense. Unless, well, maybe someone doesn't want the fight and agrees with Floyd Jr. that it's a no-go. Fine. That forces these guys to fight each other beginning in 2019. They have to. Or I assume the smart boxing fans at least are going to call these guys out. And another quick fix to buy some time, if you don't have the top guys fight each other, is to start to sacrifice a couple of them who you deem expendable. I think Adrien Broner, if he loses to Manny Pacquiao, if and when they fight, he's going to be one of those guys that if an offer comes to Broner again and he wants it, Alan Heyman is going to say, go ahead and take it. Like, I don't have that much use for you anymore. Yet, I'm still your advisor. So I'm going to, it's going to work out for me either way. So go to DAZN. So my thing is, if Broner loses, offer him to Crawford, or offer Garcia or Porter. You know, if Crawford to Crawford, if Errol Spence Jr. is the asset you want to protect, but it's going to force your hand. The sad thing is, there are so many legends rolling over in their graves, who laid their lives on the line. And guess what? The reason that they're legends is because none of them were undefeated. They are legends because of how they fought after their losses. But today, these guys are fighting like Floyd. Protect the O. Avoid who you must. Get the most money for the least risk. Okay. So, if Bud and EJ keep winning, they'll fight in 2021 or 2022. Crawford will be what, like 35, 36 by then? And I'm sure it'll be at 154 pounds by then, so no chance at welterweight unification by then, right? Hey, the Charlo brothers are finally headlining a show, but only one of them can headline it, right? So which one? Well, earlier today there was a coin flip. I'm not sure who the winner was, but on the announcement flyer I got in the email, Young Maul was on the flyer, as if like his picture and Willie Monroe Jr.'s picture were bigger, so they kind of were like headlining. So I'm a conspiracy guy, so I'll say, since he's the big puncher, and since the flyer came out with him as the bigger picture, somehow there'll be a two-headed coin and he'll win the coin toss. If so, it could very well be that if Jermell wins and Hurd wins his next fight, Jermell could be a headliner for the first time ever in the biggest fight of his career against Jarrett Hurd, which is another fight that should be made in 2019. Once again, I think hands are going to be forced, but don't sleep on that happening. And if it does, something like that could play mentally on Jermell, if, of course, he loses the coin toss. So, Young Maul, right? Jamal. Young Maul fights Willie Monroe Jr., as I stated. And I see people on Facebook talking about, oh, Monroe Jr., he'll knock him out in like 3 rounds. But let me say this, if Willie Monroe Jr. is on his game, he's going to give Maul some problems. Mark my word. The styles of each guy, if Monroe Jr. is on, trust me, he's going to give Jamal Charlo a good fight, a good run. No question. And then in what'll either be the main event or the co-feature, Tony Harrison. Tony Harrison can box his tail off. Tony Superbad Harrison. They call him Superbad. Probably named him after Bernard Superbad Mays, who was an urban legend. He was a guy back in the day who fought around the time of Thomas Hearns. And I asked Emmanuel Stewart, I said, look, man, if Bernard Superbad Mays, like if things went right for him and he kept himself clean and what have you, would he have beaten Hearns, Leonard and Duran, and he kind of looked into space, and then he looked at me, then he looked into space again, and he put his hand on his guy, like under his chin. He's like, I think he would have. So I'm gonna ask Harrison, because both of those are Kronk gym guys. I'm gonna ask him, did he get that super bad name after Bernard Mays? The key with Tony Harrison is about the 6th or 7th or 8th round, he starts to fade. And I mean, there have been times he really fades. If you go back, he was boxing Hurd up, and in their fight, and despite the scores, he was up by at least a couple of rounds. But Hurd caught up to him and took him out. So, but the matchup, or the future matchup, this is a typical boxing thing where they want to match two guys up. So they fight a common opponent. In this case, two common opponents. So I think Hurd got Harrison, like in the 8th and 9th round, something like that. So Charlo, when he fights Harrison, he's going to try to look more impressive. My advice to him was, listen, man, fight your fight. Last time out, you tried to impress against Austin Trout. Another guy Hurd fought, and you didn't look great. And so Trout can do that to you, and so can Harrison. So we shall see. But the fact that Hurd fought Harrison and Trout, and now Charlo fought Trout and is about to fight Harrison, this one on the surface looks like it's a setup for 2019. And if you follow the pattern that I just mentioned, the pattern of fights, that's what it looks like. And that's a good thing for boxing. And that's a matchup people want to see. I want to see it. I mean, when I say I don't like the premier model, I mean there are a lot of things I mean by that, but no, if you make a fight like that, I'm going to love it. And it looks like it's headed that way, just with the common opponent thing. Hey man, everybody loves the PBC, right? It's free. It's free. Free TV. But wait a minute. We're looking at a December 1st pay-per-view, right? That's the Wilder fight. And then a January pay-per-view with AB and Manny. And then a February pay-per-view with maybe Errol Spence Jr. and Mikey Garcia. Which, if it happens, that'll scrap the plans each guy initially had to fight an opponent, and then it'll delay Crawford versus Spence also. What happened to free PBC? If you go back a year, and I told you in my video, the plan was to show their hand with the free TV and then go the pay-per-view route. And the fact that HBO is gone, the belief with DAZN and to an extent with ESPN Plus is that you can kill pay-per-view. 3 straight months of pay-per-view are going to hurt some people's pockets. But I want the same people to complain if the prices are high for back-to-back-to-back months. Okay? You figure the Wilder versus Fury fight will run $70 or above. That's just an educated guess, right? And then Senator Manny Pacquiao, his fight has to run at least that also, right? All I'm saying is to make sure you complain like you would have if HBO ran 3 months in a row of pay-per-view. And in all honesty, if you pay $5 a month for ESPN Plus and $9 a month for DAZN, isn't that also pay-per-view? Anyway, at least those apps are going to offer football and MMA and other stuff to go along with boxing. So I'll give them that. I guess that's okay. But hey, the future of boxing is now. Pay for streaming sites. Bye-bye networks. And I think that's what Aaron was saying when he said that Showtime will be gone. I don't know if it'll be a year, but it's headed that way. And there's your slow death, so to speak, with the way, or as we know it now. Back to Charlo. Last thing we heard was Team Golovkin was going into negotiations with Team Charlo. So what the heck happened? I look up and Charlo set to fight Monroe Jr. And I've heard absolutely nothing from the Golovkin camp. So, I mean, like, what gives? As far as Gennadi's concerned, once Murata lost, kind of messing up the big Golovkin payday, I thought I'd hear something, and then nothing. No Charlo. And the Charlos always run their mouths. So, but it seems when they get quiet, that's when you should start paying them the most attention. What happened? I don't watch too many videos. Maybe I'll search for some videos to see if someone had the guts to ask him, like, hey, you were negotiating with Triple G, like, and then this pops up. Was this Heyman once again telling you to say no? But they quiet. And that's when you should pay the Charlo brothers attention, is when they're quiet. Because it's like, you quiet for a reason. What is it? Like when Daniel Jacobs walked up on him while he was talking shit at Barclays Center. And I'll leave that video at the end of this one. Everybody's seen it, but if you haven't, I'll leave a portion of the clip. I won't leave the back end of the clip. You can find that somewhere where he's talking, and he's kind of talking about Jacobs. Like, you know, hey, he got to see me. I don't know, where's he at? But as he's talking, he's like looking left, looking right, because he knows dude is kind of making his way there. And he's just like looking like, like, oh man, I see this smoke clearing. Like, where's he at? Where's he at? And then he shows up. And when he did, he just leaned up against the wall, and he stayed on the wall and got put in his place. You know, Jacob shut him down. And then the part I won't play is, because this video is probably already too long anyway, is after Jacobs left, then all of a sudden Jermell shows up, and then my man Young Maul gets all his heart, starts cursing like, man, I'll fight, I'll do this, I'll do that. Blah. And I'm like, dude, where was all that when Jacob stepped to you? Oh man, I mean, it's so like his brother came out from hiding, and then Jamal got all tough again. It was funny. So I have an idea. We already know Jermell has a belt, and if he wins, he can unify with Hurd sometime in 2019. Okay, so Young Maul, who has done nothing at middleweight. How about this? If you win your next fight and Jacobs wins his next fight on Saturday night, let the grudge match begin. I'd love to see that. I mean, DEREVYANCHENKO is no slouch, and Jacobs better be very careful with the guy. But if Jacobs wins and you win, Jamal, let's make it happen. On Fox or Showtime, please. Not pay-per-view. It's easy fight to make, and there's bad blood there between the two, and a real title will be on the line. The IBF title that was stripped from Golovkin. So when Jamal fights Monroe Jr. in December, don't get fooled when they refer to Charlo as the interim WBC champion. That's just some BS title the WBC has so they can get their sanctioning fee, and a guy can refer to himself as a champion. The JACOBS-DEREVYANCHENKO fight is like a 55-45 fight. And if you never saw Sergey Derevianchenko or DEREVYANCHENKO, or however you want to pronounce it, because believe me, you hear it many different ways on many different channels. If you've never seen Sergey fight, check out his fight with Toriano Johnson. Toriano can fight, but Derevianchenko wore him out, especially late. I mean, it was the kind of beating, especially late in the fight, where you just don't come back the same. Toriano would have been in better shape if he got knocked out early or in the middle rounds, to be honest. He took a beating. Check that fight out. Toriano could fight, and Derevianchenko, I mean, he put it on him late. Oh, man. So, if Wilder versus Fury ends in a knockout, most people say, well, Deontay would win. But if it goes the distance, some say, well, that means Fury probably won. But I have to question that. I'm not sure Tyson Fury can win a decision in the United States, especially fighting Wilder. Let's take a look at 3 fights, okay? Artur Szpilka, Gerald Washington, and Louis Ortiz. Alright, so against Artur Szpilka, Wilder was ahead by 4 points on 2 judges' cards. No. With Gerald Washington, Wilder's up by 2 points on 1 card and tied on the other 2. No way. Against Kong, Wilder was up on all 3 cards. No, sir. In each of those fights, Deontay Wilder should have been trailing on all 3 scorecards. Yet, he was ahead on multiple cards in all 3 of those fights. But then we always take the I don't care approach as fans and media. We don't call corruption when it happens right before our eyes, right in front of us. Oh no, I'm not going to lose favor with a promoter or a fighter or a network. I don't want to lose my credential as a member of the media, because I happen to call things straight up and down. The bottom line is, you can add the New York State Athletic Commission to the corruption list by them stopping the fight and pretending to examine Wilder as if they stopped the fight if Wilder happened to be incoherent. No. In that Ortiz fight, you were buying time for the house fighter who needed it at that very moment. It's as corrupt as the WBC clean boxing program is questionable as a conflict of interest. call it what it is. But we just look at it as just a moment in boxing that half the world forgot. And when you forget and someone brings it up, oh, they stopped the fight when Wilder was hurt. They give him some time. Oh, that's right. No, call it. Call it. I listened to some post-fight summaries and nobody brought it up. It was a non-issue. That's corruption right in front of your face. When Ortiz went down that one time, I mean, did they give him the same time off? No. And he went down. Wilder didn't go down, but he gets that extra time. Give me a break. Speaking of Wilder, he says he deserves a 60-40 split in his favor to fight that coward Anthony Joshua. Okay. If he's not too careful, an American might win the World Boxing Super Series Cruiserweight crown. I'm talking about Andrew Tabiti. Now, he's in a tough one, but he's fighting Junior Dorticos, or Dorticos, Junior Dorticos. Most of you guys say Dorticos. I get it. You like eating Doritos, and it sounds like Doritos, so we'll go with Dorticos. I think if this fight took place a year and a half ago, Tabiti would have been in trouble, but Dorticos, who is a hard hitter and one of the top cruiserweights out there, he might just be ripe for the taking in this fight. We'll see. We'll see. How about Steve, what you talking about, Willis, blowing the foul call in the Demetrius Andrade fight? Did he miss that or what? The question is, did he miss it accidentally, or did he miss it accidentally on purpose? Because Willis missed a similar call in the Golovkin versus Lemieux fight when Golovkin hit Lemieux when Lemieux was down. And he certainly missed a few things in the Chocolatito versus Rungvisai side, the first fight, when elbow or forearm or what have you knocked Chocolatito down and he ruled it a punch. Or no, it was, or was it a head? I think it might have been a headbutt. And I mean, clear as day, the guy's looking right at it. But everybody's so captivated about the faces this guy makes as a referee, and hey, yeah, oh, it tickles people, man, it makes them laugh. But he should be held accountable, because there's too many times that this has happened with him. Julian Williams, he's in a nice spot. He has the opportunity. He can choose to fight Erislandy Lara in a WBC final eliminator that puts him in line to fight Jermell Charlo, or he can face Japan's Takeshi Inoue, which lines him up for WBO, IBO, and IBF champion Jarrett Hurd. If I'm Julian Williams, I take on Inoue and shoot for the Hurd fight. I think Hurd has a style that is tailor-made for Julian Williams if he's on his game. So next week we got Sully B, Sullivan Barrera versus Shawnee Monahan. That's at the Aviator Sports and Entertainment Arena in Brooklyn. And that is a fantastic fight. I think it's going to be on Facebook Live too. I think Golden Boy and Main Events, they announced an agreement where they'll do some fights together, and this one's going to be on Facebook Live. So it's a free fight, guys, no charge. Support it. Support. I want 100,000 people to be watching. I want this to get to 6 figures on Facebook. It's free. Spread the word. It's an excellent matchup for both guys, and it's just an excellent matchup at this point of each guy's careers. It's a fantastic matchup. Sullivan Barrera, Sully B, Shawnee Monahan. November 3rd on Facebook Live. Check it out. And on November 16th from Philadelphia, I might go to this card at that dump, the 2300 Arena in Philly. Ambulance in the background killing me. Jaron Ennis takes on Raymond Serrano. Tito Serrano. So you heard of Spence, you heard of Thurman, you heard of Crawford, you heard of Porter, you heard of Garcia. Jaron Ennis, Boots as they call him. Check out Jaron Ennis, a welterweight who you'll be mentioning his name along with those other guys. I mean, he is a talent to watch. I'm not going to go over the rest of the boxing schedule. I'll do that in another video because I've talked long enough. Catch you later.
You want to fight me? Let's fight.
Jamal, I asked you the other day on the conference call if when you hear things like, oh, he's got to earn his way into this division, you know, he hasn't fought anybody, do you think that's code for we don't want to fight you?
Nah. There you go. Nah, it ain't that you gotta earn your way in the division. I'm in the division.
Miracle Man. I came at the perfect time. I came at the perfect
goddamn time.
So you already know. I'm just trying to figure out like what we doing. I'm just trying to figure out what we doing because you know we both got fights. No, it's all love. That's my man. So I'm just we can show love. So let him talk. I'm just trying to figure out like what we doing. We gonna play back and forth or Twitter like.
He said go to HBO.
Cause you say I'm dunking you to go on HBO?
No.
Bro, you ain't even touching M yet. I'm touching M's. That's why I made my way to HBO. I know you're gonna or probably get it.
You don't know what I'm touching.
But don't say,
you don't know what I'm touching.
Oh, I know what you're touching, babe, bro. I know what you're touching, babe, bro.
I never said you ducked me.
I know what you're touching.
If you want to fight Danny, why not?
They said,
why not?
You said I was going to HBO.
They said she
Road runner.
They said
Road runner. That's what I'm talking about.
What's up?
We don't need to go back and forth. You know I'm not ducking. You took your we don't have to do that. This is what I'm saying. You know I ain't going to I just want to make it clear. Because I'm hearing people saying you saying pull up. Pull up mean. I don't know what that means. All right, so when we take care of old boy, you know what I already know. You know what I'm saying? I'm confused. You know why? This is why I'm confused. Because you know my rap shit. You know what I'm about. You know what I'm about. So okay. You know what I'm about. All right. I'm serious. You know it. I'm serious.